it's been mentioned many times by other doctors, why we do a 4-month, 4-week visit, 6-week visit, 8-week visit. We really don't know, but now we can track it and know exactly when the right time to see the next patient is without them having to come in for a worthless visit that wasn't needed.
Well, I'll talk about how I started, actually, because I've always taken emergencies with my cell phone, right, wrong, or otherwise. But probably 10 years ago, when photos started becoming prevalent in cell phones, I'd get an emergency call and say, hey, take a picture, send me the picture, take a look. I saved myself so many times going into that office for an emergency. So I started thinking, this is pretty cool, this whole remote stuff. And then when it started coming out and coming to the forefront, people were doing this. Well, the first objection, I think, was the time with it. Because some of those early monitoring widgets, you had to look at them, and there was actually more staff. People were hiring staff to look at the remote monitoring systems. Once the AI came out, it seemed simpler to me, and I could reduce staff with it, with that AI. My staff really didn't object to it, to be honest with you, because they felt like it would make their life easier. And I gave them plenty of time, and I gave them plenty of freedom to learn it, because they screwed it up incredibly when we started it. But, and they'd come to me and say, how are we going to do this? Like, I have no idea, but we'll figure it out. So my staff really didn't give me a lot of problems with it, to be honest with you.
And I started a long time ago, and actually when it was the bulkier, and that's maybe sometimes doctors trying to get into it, still think of the old cheek retractor separate from the camera, and that made people turn off to it. And I did at the beginning. And then with the new technology, the new scan box, I went back to it. And it did make it so much easier, less bulky, easier to train a person to do it. And now with everybody having the cell phone anyway, they have with them 24/7. It's like attached to a teenager. So easy to integrate. All it is adding it to the box. They do the same thing. They're used to working with it. The hardest people to train are the parents, not the kids.
Yeah, and the beauty of this, and the difficult part for us, was keeping the relationship, because there's so much teledentistry or remote medicine that is not personalized anymore. You don't have doctors really overseeing anything. So the biggest concept in training for us was how do we keep that relationship with the patient? We care about you. We're keeping a close watch on you. But by the way, we're going to check this scan every week, and we don't need to see you for 4 or 5 months. That was a challenge. But once you get that figured out, it's beautiful, because they feel more taken care of, in my opinion, because they're doing it every week, and you're looking at it every week. But you have to make sure they feel cared for, and you have to keep that relationship with them. That was the most difficult part for us. But once we got through it, it's beautiful.
See, and I didn't have that. And the thing for me that's been interesting is I have a big group of parents who the moms play tennis. The kids play 15 sports, right? And so when I started integrating it and telling them, hey, this is going to take you about a minute a week to do this. And in doing so, I can save you from having to miss your after-school activities. I can save you from having to miss your tennis match as a mom. And as soon as we talk about that time savings part of things, it's made it super easy. So the worry, I think there's a few out there that worry that we're going to lose contact because they're not in the office or what's going to happen. No, I'm trying to tell them that, like you said, I'm looking at you every day or every week versus every 6 or 8 weeks. And that's such a nebulous time frame. I mean, it's been mentioned many times by other doctors, why we do a 4-month, 4-week visit, 6-week visit, 8-week visit. We really don't know. But now we can track it and know exactly when the right time to see the next patient is without them having to come in for a worthless visit that wasn't needed. And the moms, when you tell them, I can save you 3, 4, 5 visits in a time over treatment, that's huge to them with all the other activities that they've got going on.
And you're right, because oftentimes tennis is more important to these parents than coming to see us. They need to go to tennis. They don't need to come see us.
Right.
So,
and the kids don't want to miss. They'd rather miss school, but
Right.
they definitely don't want to miss their after school activities, and that's when everybody wants to bring them in.
Right.
And you just don't need as many of those.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. So how did you start with the implementation?
Well, implementation was relatively easy for us because we're a very heavy clear aligner practice. Currently, I'm literally 99% clear aligners. So it's all monitoring treatment with that one tool. So for us, it really was not that big of a challenge. But now it's got to be harder for you guys that do it with braces as well.
Yeah, and that's I knew after talking to so many people who were doing with the liners, even early on, that it was an easy flow with the liners. But I thought that there was probably some good value to using it with brackets as well. So my implementation went, as soon as we started, everybody was onboarded. Aligners, brackets, in-house system, no matter what it was. And what I found is on the braces side, it's helped us maybe not in the time savings as much as aligners has, but in heading off the bigger, badder problems, the early broken brackets, the wire that's going to become a problem, the door that's open because we use self-ligating brackets. And then the other thing it's really helped with is impacted teeth. I know exactly when I need to bring them back in to activate versus bringing them in 4 weeks and it's still active. And we basically are just saying, okay, looks good, send you along. So from that side, the implementation actually has been easier than I expected with brackets because it provided such another avenue that I didn't expect that it could.
And I think the key thing you said in that whole thing was that you put everybody on it, because that's what we did too. Once we jumped in and started it, we did everybody with it. And that's what I said. So we're going to do everybody. If it fails, then we're going to take everybody off it. But I think that's the key thing you said, is you jump in and you have to do it on everybody. You can't pick and choose, because then that complicates your systems, complicates the operations. You don't know what you're doing from patient to patient. So I think that was a very key thing that you said.
Yeah, and you know, as we've all been, we're all dabblers. Everybody's got that drawer that you open that has like 50 things in it that you've used one time. But once you start doing things like this and jumping all in, you do realize it is a much easier integration that way versus the dabbling and you go 10 and then you realize it's good. Well, let's go 20. And you just do that. It actually takes you so much longer as a group, not just a doctor, but as your whole team to implement it. And all in is definitely the best way to go.
I agree, 100%.
I think the barrier for other doctors is the unknown, and they think that they are going to lose ultimate control of things. But after you've used it for long enough, you know that all the tools built into it actually make you an overall better communicator with the patient than not.
Agreed.
You've got the ability to take the photo that they took, circle something, and type a note. You have the ability to do a little video of exactly what you're looking at and send it to them and say, hey, here's what we talked about. Watch out for this. Let us know. It's an open dialogue of communication versus a stagnant, oh, come see us if you need us. No, we're already proactively looking for it. And I've been even using it now. I'm taking those snippets and sending it to my oral surgeon, my periodontist, and saying, hey, I have this. Take a look at this and let me know. And I can do it via video format versus just a letter that says, please extract. You know, it doesn't communicate the way that it should. And doctors, I think, are thinking that they're going to lose that communication. They're actually gaining a bigger communication tool. Well, the other thing too is that we really have gotten to a point where I don't want to change the status quo because I'm doing fine. And that's all said and good, but at some point too, as a practitioner, you got to have something that keeps you motivated
Right.
and going versus just making money. And you can make more by doing less by using this, and you know, type of life you want to have, the amount of time you want to spend with patients just gets better and better. But it's this vision that, oh, I'm doing fine. Why would I want to change? And that's such a backwards thinking to me now. Early on, that's what I wanted to be. All those doctors that I saw, the one that treated me, I mean, they did the same thing over and over and over again. To me, that's just not. It's not fun. It's
Right.
not what wants me make me want to come back into the office. And two, I don't think staff now that comes in, they just want to change O-rings all day long. They want to do something different and engaging and innovative that makes them feel like they're part of the practice too. And you can do that with this.
Well, one of the interesting things to me is people talk to me and ask me all the time now about the staffing crisis. And they want to hear my opinion because of the staffing crisis. Now, what I did with this came along way before the staffing crisis. And if I had to give up this monitoring and the digital things I do, I'd be in the middle of a staffing crisis because I'd have to hire another 4 or 5 people right away. So it's really changed us so much that way. And I maybe got lucky that I started doing this 5, 6 years ago instead of today, because I don't have a staffing crisis, but I sure would. If I didn't have this remote monitoring, I would have a big staffing crisis now. And we'd be interviewing, hiring, training, firing, quitting, whatever. We'd be in that circle. And I don't like that. I think very few orthodontists study business and know how to run a business. So I think, yes, this stuff seems really expensive. And it does have a cost associated with it. But there's a return on that investment that I think a poor business owner won't recognize. You know, if you invest $1 and you can save this much time and get $5 back, that's not a cost. That's an investment to get a return on that investment. And I think as orthodontists, we're trained as scientists. We're trained as doctors. We're not trained to own a business. So most people just look at the bill instead of saying, okay, here's my bill, but I took in 5 times that because I used this thing. I think that's a hard concept for doctors to get over.
Yeah, I agree 100% in that. If you just look at it from a pure price point, it seems like a hurdle that you have to jump over that's too high. But yeah, the business training side is such a tough thing with people. But once they do see, and just listen to people like us that do it, in that it has made it so much easier. You have more free time. You can go do more stuff with your family. You can do more training with your staff. You can take your staff to do things, and in doing so, freeing up so much time, it takes that barrier and starts to squish it down. And I see the hard part for some people looking at it, and I've got to integrate this. I need more staff to do that. And I think that you're proving that to be not the case. And I hope to learn from you in the less is better model by using it more efficiently like you are.
And even down to a clinical level, the time you get back. I'm less stressed throughout the day. I don't see the chaos in the patients throughout the day. So I feel like I provide better clinical care. You know, my clinical care is digital, but I spend so much more time treatment planning, diagnosing, designing those biomechanics because I get that time back. So I think it trickles down all the way to that clinical care. It's not just a business profitability thing. I feel like I'm providing better treatment for my patients. I've never started it from the money. You know, you think about what kind of care you can provide, how you can do that efficiently in a low stress environment, and the money just kind of flows after that. You know, so I think also people start with the money. Here's my expense, where's my profitability, what's my P&L say? If you think about it from the other direction, you know, I'm going to increase the clinical care, I'm going to have less stress, I'm going to have less patients per day. Oh, gee, look, I'm making more money. You know, that's how it happened for me.
And I am that person that's not the best business mind, and I know that. I'm a very clinical thinking person, and it took some friends that thought more like you do in changing the way that you have structured your practice. And I think that's a hard thing for people to come past because they aren't the best business people, but they need to take it from people like me that aren't that way either, that the stress does change the way that your business runs. Mm-hmm. And when the stress is down and when all of that is running the way it should, that profit does go up. And we're all looking at the ultimate bottom line, but we got to look at it from how can I make that bottom line better, faster, easier, and with less stress.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
It's hard to think, oh, let's put everybody on it, let's monitor everything. But now you look at it and go, by doing that, it has made it that much easier on everything, systems, processes, on your profitability, on your time, on the stress level, and then the communication part. I can't stress enough about how easy it is to communicate.
And one of the interesting things, and I used to feel bad about this, but they talk about the lazy entrepreneur and about the most successful entrepreneurs are lazy. And I think maybe I've always been a little lazy because I just don't want to work that much. Things like this simplify it so much. They make it so much more efficient. I'm not spending the time in the office. I'm not spending the time with emergencies. I'm not spending the time with the stress. So I used to feel bad about calling myself lazy, but I'm really not. I want to, do the same level or better level of treatment, but I don't want to spend all that time. So you kind of become that lazy entrepreneur, and it's great. It's wonderful.